Hello, ladies, gays, queers, and everybody in between. It's Bréon, and we are here for episode 4 of the Lesbian Dating App Disaster podcast. I love saying my title every single time. I don't get sick of it. I want to take a moment to say that spring is on the way and it has rejuvenated me in a way that I did not expect. And I'm also very proud of myself for making it through another winter because if the sun is not shining, I am not happy. And it is very difficult living in Michigan where the weather can be so unpredictable. But that's why we need to move very soon. And by we, I mean just me. I want to take a second to shout out what I think is so cool right now is that my podcast has made its way to 12 countries. I don't know how many people exactly in those countries, but to know that my little show, my little baby, my little artistic brainchild has reached 12 countries, 11, not including the country that I'm in, the United States, is just wild and bananas as fuck. So I'm going to take a second to shout out all of those countries and just to say thank you. Thank you so much for giving me time and space in your life. So we've got the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, France, New Zealand, the Philippines, the Netherlands, Singapore, Ireland, Chile, and Switzerland. That is just incredible. That is absolutely insane that with only 3 episodes, I've managed to hit all these different parts of the world. And I just hope that more people continue to enjoy because I do enjoy sharing these stories. Like I said, it's March. It's almost springtime. We're gearing towards summer. I've already told my friends that I am not sleeping this summer because I will be outside on everybody's rooftop in a corner just vibing because I am so sick of being in the house and so sick of just going to my job every day and dealing with everything that comes with the state of the world. I don't want to start harping on where we're at in this world because we already know, and that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to think outside of that a little bit. So, today's story is about a woman that I suspect may have bust the windows out my car. I don't have proof, but everything kind of lines up, and here is where the story is going to begin. So I meet her. We'll say her name is Tiffany. I meet Tiffany, and we'll just call her Tiff for short because I remember her name being, she only went by half of her name, and it's just like a syllable or so, in my mind when I think about this person. If I even think her name is the name that I think it is, because I will admit I do not remember a lot of names. I have done a lot of things, and I do not remember a lot of names. But the ones I do remember, I will change. Okay, so Tiff, again, met on the app. We talked a little bit. We exchanged numbers. I say, hey, my friend is throwing this party, a rave. And do you want to come with me? Come over beforehand. We'll drive over. We'll have a good night. And through messaging and through text, everything seemed fine. We were able to talk about things. They were able to text. They had excellent text etiquette. They used, standard texting protocol and yada, yada. And so Tiff gets here, and she looks great. I'm gonna probably say this about a lot of the women that I talk about. Like, they look great because I'm looking at you're in my line of sight because you look great, you know. So anyway, she gets here. I remember she was wearing this hat, like a wide brim hat, and maybe like a yellow coat, and I was like, damn, okay. And she gets here and we're just talking. I noticed she's more quiet, more reserved. She didn't make a lot of eye contact either, which for me was interesting because I make eye contact when I'm talking to people. But she was just very, very, her energy was just very small in the room. And I get with being nervous. This is like a first meetup, hangout, date, whatever. We're going to a party, you know, all these things. So I'm just trying to attribute it to it being these other factors. So I say, hey, you want to smoke? She says, yeah, sure. I break out the bowl. I'm hitting the bowl. And I pass it to her, and she kind of hits it and then looks at it. And I don't think anything of it. And then she kind of laughs and she says, oh, I've never actually hit one of these before. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, you smoke, but you don't smoke bowls. And that's very real. A lot of people don't smoke bowls. And I say, oh, well, okay, this is how you hit a bowl. I show her how to hit a bowl. And she starts coughing naturally. I'm like, okay, I don't think anything of it. Maybe about 10 minutes later, she's just like, I've never smoked before. I don't like smoke. And I'm just shocked and confused, but I don't show it. I say, oh, okay, you know, how are you feeling? Are you okay? You know, you don't have to smoke if that's not your vice of choice. And I'm just thinking like maybe she's just not an experienced smoker. I'm like, you know, we can go get a drink and all that. And she says, no, I'm fine. So we leave to go to the party. Now, to go to the party, we rode in separate cars because I knew I was going to be out for the rest of the night, and I didn't want to be caught up in driving someone back and forth or whatever. So my car at the time was a 2005 Taurus that had the passenger side door crashed in the front. So then the back door didn't open. On the one door on the driver's side didn't open, then the passenger door didn't open, windows didn't roll down. Either way, it was not a place to roll with a date, quote unquote. I'm not bringing a date in this car where you're climbing in to the passenger seat from the front seat. That's not a good look. Just drive your own car, sis. So we drive separate cars. She knows what car is mine at this point. It's very distinctive. It's got a giant crash on the side. We get to the party. She doesn't say anything. She's just quiet off to the side. My friends from Chicago were in town for this party for the friend that was throwing the party. And we're all just kind of standing, talking, kind of catching up, mingling. But I would check in and she just had this, like she just didn't want to be there. She was not happy. She didn't want to dance. She didn't want to kind of get off the wall. She didn't want to do anything. And I say, okay, well, do you want to leave? And she says, no. Maybe 30 minutes pass and she decides that she's going to leave. All right. I continue on. You know, at this time, I was probably out until 6 a.m. Who knows? Actually, no, I was not Okay, so my friends from Chicago came and slept over here. We got in, fell asleep, woke up. I hear from Tiff. She texts. She's just like, good morning. That's how I hear her text because it was with an exclamation mark. And I felt like she didn't have a great time last night, so I didn't understand why she was texting me. But she's just like, good morning. What's up? And I'm just like, hey. And I'm telling my friends in real time that this is happening. Tiff then offers to come hang out. And I say, well, I'm with my friends. She's like, oh, no worries. How about you guys want some mimosas? I'll bring champagne and everything. She says, do you guys want me to bring food? Do you guys want breakfast? Do you want something to eat? And I asked my friends, I say, okay, what do you want her to bring us? And because they're not living in Detroit anymore, they're like, Bucharest. We want Bucharest. And for those that don't live in Detroit, Michigan, Bucharest is a chicken shawarma spot that is pretty fantastic. Even though I try not to eat a lot of meat, every now and again, a shawarma does hit for me. So I just take a long shot and say, do you want to bring us shawarmas? Because that's like 4 shawarmas. Like, that's like $30. Like, okay. I take a shot. I ask her. She says, sure, no problem. Great. I say, okay. So she gets there with the shawarmas, with the champagne. We're all just chilling. I distinctly remember my apartment was very empty at this time, that I did not have the furniture that I have now in this apartment. So we were all sitting on the floor. She doesn't say anything still. She doesn't tap into the conversations at all. Nothing. And then one of my friends brings up, I think, like a TV show, maybe an anime show, I'm not sure. And she just lights up with conversation. That was the only topic that she could chime in on. And I was just sitting there like, oh, so you know how to talk about things, but not... She was very passionate about this one particular thing. And it was just like, oh, wow, well, I would have never known to press that button. At some point, one of my friends breaks out a vape pen. The vape pen goes around, and she hits the vape pen. Minutes go by, maybe 10, 15 minutes, not even. And she says, my throat is on fire. My chest hurts. My chest is on fire. And we're just like, are you okay? Like, did you eat something? She's like, I think it was the pen, hitting the pen. And I said, well, how hard did you hit it? Because if you smoke vape pens, you know not to just inhale the mugs. Like, you will be on fire if you do that. And I said, do you smoke vape pens? And she says, no, I don't really smoke weed, like, ever. And she's just like, my head feels funny. She just completely freaks out. She's calm on the outside, but you know how your brain is working when you are panicking, especially like a weed panic, And we're just like, okay, you don't have to do any drugs here if that's not your thing. Like, you do not have to hit the pen. The pen is a very special form of weed, and you gotta know how to use them. And then eventually she leaves, and I'm just like, did you guys just see that? And then I don't hear from her for maybe half a day. I text her to say, like, hey, are you okay? She says, yeah, I'm fine. And I just let her down. I say, hey, this isn't gonna work for me. I don't think I said that, but I said, I'm not interested. And she says, okay. That's all she says. I remember sending her a decent little chunk of message, and she just said, okay. And I was like, okay, all right. So maybe about 3 days later, I get a call from my leasing office. And they say, hi, are you the owner of the 2005 Taurus? I say, yes. And they say, well, there's a problem in the parking lot. And I say, okay. They say, we believe your car was broken into. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, okie doke. So I go downstairs, I see, now, my car was parked in a lot, a well-lit lot, under a legitimate, like, street lamp kind of thing. It was not dark, it was not sketchy, it's not a sketchy parking lot, like, my car was just not doing anything to anybody. Like, you had to have known my car to then proceed to bust the windows out, and then didn't take anything. The passenger side where the door doesn't open, that window was bust out. That was so hard to get replaced. Then the driver's side was bust out, and it looked like they just took like a blunt object, like a bat or something, like a pipe, and just went in from like with the bottom of it, because there were just holes on the side. Like someone was like just jabbing into the windows and didn't take anything. Sloshed some things around, but didn't take anything. After this whole weird situation with Tiff, where she was really uncomfortable, her body was feeling weird, she was probably scared, she probably, might have thought I was up to something different. I don't know, but it just did not add up. It just did not add up. So that's the story of Tiff, who was doing drugs and shouldn't have been doing drugs because she knows that she shouldn't be doing them. I don't understand my luck all the time. But what was great about Tiff is we got Bucharest shawarmas and mimosas that day and didn't have to pay for any of it. I just hope she found someone that could match her. And I did not ask her about you may say, well, did you text her and ask her about the windows? And I said, no, I'm not gonna text her because I don't want to give her any ammo in case she's mad about how the whole entire last 12 to 15 hours played out. I took you to a party that you weren't happy with and you were uncomfortable. And I mean, it wasn't like a, crazy like party thing. Like it was in a warehouse, the music was loud, people were dancing. It was fine. Like it wasn't, it wasn't like a rave that you see on television. Like it wasn't anything like that. It was just me just standing and chilling, enjoying the music, enjoying not being in the house. And you just felt so uncomfortable, and then you still text me the next day and you bring us alcohol and food, and then you start doing what you don't normally do. And I don't want anyone to cap for me, do what works for you. I don't pressure anyone to do anything that they don't want to do. You are grown, and I believe she was older than me. So it's like, you extra grown. Why are you doing things that you're not comfortable with? And people do things that they're uncomfortable with all the time. So, thank you so much for this episode. I hope everyone continues to have a wonderful March, wonderful rebirth, and I will talk to you all soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.